we already are copying and pasting things from ChatGPT into all these different apps in order to create something, or in order to do some research, or in order to carry these workflows from one to the other. So now ChatGPT will kind of bring all those things together for you. Hello, and welcome to Generation AI, where we demystify artificial intelligence in the world of higher education and beyond. I'm your host, Ardis and Kadiu, and with me today I have a special host, Petar. Hey, Petar, how's it going?
Hey Ardis, thanks for having me back. This is my, I think, third time with you here.
Of course, of course. We have a very special episode for everybody today. So in this episode of Generation AI, we're gonna deep dive into OpenAI's third annual Dev Day event that was held this past Monday, October 6th, 2025, with incredible event with over essentially OpenAI and ChatGPT has 800 million weekly active users now with ChatGPT and billions of tokens being processed daily. OpenAI is positioning itself as the operating system of the future, and we're going to kind of break down some of those major announcements that were announced, explore the new tools that the developers had, and kind of dissect some of the reactions from the community, some experts, and of course, we're going to discuss a lot of those reactions from ourselves and from as product builders as well. So whether you're kind of somebody who needs to understand a little bit more, a builder, a consumer, there's just a lot here to unpack. So hopefully this episode we'll try to do our best to kind of give all those different perspectives. Petar, we were there in person, so this was special for us. We were there in person. There's about 1,500 people in person. Our first time in San Francisco. What did you think?
I had a really, really good time. Like even when they initially announced like that, like registrations for open for the Dev Day were open. Like it was like 2, 3 months ago. I told you right, hey, let's go, let's go. And we were lucky. We were lucky to get a slot. So we took it as an opportunity to be, because it was on Monday. Hey, what if we come, Friday or Saturday morning, and we use the weekend to see San Francisco? I think well for me and you was the first time. Beautiful city. I can now understand why all these builders want to go there. Weather was amazing. What really struck to me was like all the tech billboards as we were like driving from the airport into the city. It's kind of like totally different audience. Like I saw like all the things that I'm using like day to day that like most people don't know. I'm like, oh, there's that software, there's that software, there's that software.
Yep, yep. There was billboards and agent billboards all over the city. So
You're the bus stop and like, hey, you're AI for this, you're AI for that. So
yeah.
very, very, very interesting. Loved San Francisco, great city. I think we were able to like see most of it in those 2 days. I mean the most touristy parts.
Yeah, I mean, you made me walk 25,000 steps, so that's a lot.
That's what
That's
I
a
did.
lot for
Second day we took the cab.
second day we did take the cab. That's right. That's right. Great city. We had a really good time, and then Monday morning we go to OpenAI to Dev Day. Get in, keynote, 1,500 people. The event, we turn around and there is all of the AI influencers and the AI folks that we see every single day on YouTube, or the reporters. We see all of those folks in there. We see badges from some of the largest companies, obviously from Netflix to
Facebook, Microsoft. There was
yeah,
Cognition that built Devin. It
yeah,
was basically every company that's building AI. They had a representative in there. That was really interesting, and that was kind of the goal why we also wanted to go. We wanted to, because in Element we also are. We think that we are building the world class AI, so we wanted to compare ourselves against all the builders out there and see how we measure. And I think we measure good.
it just feels a little different when you're afar and you think that this thing is happening somewhere, and then you're in the middle, you're having conversations, and you're like, well, we're doing the same things, or actually we're doing things even better, and we can kind of exchange conversations. And so if anything, I feel like that was probably your biggest takeaway from the event.
True, and then I got really really inspired because when you get there, you see even like the age groups like there was of course predominantly more younger folks like the new builders coming up, like new grads trying on their startups.
Yeah, I did feel very old. I did feel very old, and I'm only 41, so I felt old in there.
I felt in the middle. I felt in the middle.
Hmm.
But what I really liked is the new builders, their eagerness and how they're optimistic. Like I heard some ideas of people that what they're trying to build, and I like that. I like the optimism and where it's headed and how they want to use the technology to change the world. And it's a different culture there. Like everybody there is like, hey, it's grind. It's you need to build. You need to innovate. It's much different from other areas. Like it is a bubble there. It is a bubble, and they all keep inside of the bubble and kind of like boost each other up. And you see like when we came there, like me and Ardis coming from me specifically like from Europe. I didn't even spend a lot that much time in US. Ardis predominantly was in the East Coast. We coming there like we were not from those from their networks. You saw like all of them mingling like so we need like to take effort to mingle. So it's a little bit different. But you see them mingling like it's kind of like as I now understand how it operates. Like they all because you see that on the internet. Like all
Everybody knows each other.
everybody knows each other. Everybody boosts each other as well because you will see, hey, look at this company. They're shipping. They're doing great. Then look at this company. They've created a really nice system to kind of like help each other to make the whole industry grow. So that's really struck me.
Well, so let's get into kind of the meat of the kind of conference and why we were. I mean, of course, we were there for a lot of different things, but like, what were the announcements during the conference, during the keynote, and then we'll dive into some individual sessions that we kind of thought were very interesting and some insights, but. One of the more important things, if we were to think about it, OpenAI, they kind of shifted from kind of this, they're positioning ChatGPT as an operating system. So essentially an interface for native apps and third-party agent tooling. So one of the things that was announced, there's three main things that were announced during the keynote, which was apps, agents, and what was the last one? I think new models. So let's talk about the apps. So apps in ChatGPT. They announced apps SDK, and it's pretty interesting. So what they shipped is native applications that run directly into ChatGPT with deep integration. So talk to the app and the context sharing between the app and the chat and ChatGPT. So ChatGPT can now understand what you're doing in an app and can act like in line. You can, for example, one of the examples that they had was a Coursera course that somebody said, "Hey, I want to." I want to learn about this, and Coursera is one of the apps that ChatGPT uses. It brought Coursera inline as an interface, and now you can interact with that. You can stop the video, you can ask about what's happening in this video, and so on and so forth.
So basically, it makes sense, right? We saw that even before that they wanted to create an app store because they've seen the power of it, like with what Apple has done, right? There's a huge power in terms of economy if you have something like that. They've tried it, right? We were discussing like they had the plugins before, then GPTs, and now this is kind of like a whole new evolution taking a turn. I think this third time around, models are much better. That it allows them to do this. Models are now much better at kind of like using different types of tools to handle the job. So without extra effort, you are able to probably call into more systems. We see that also as we develop currently the new models. So I think that's why they went there. They saw it's possible, and they hooked into the MCP. You've heard us maybe before talking about this protocol. It's kind of like a protocol how large language models can talk to other systems. So that they created an extension of that protocol that allows them, while calling these other systems can also define UI that can be returned. And this is proprietary to the OpenAI. Like they define their own like open standard and their own language to be able to define that. It'll be curious to see if in other systems later on that will become the de facto standard, or this will be only OpenAI. But basically, they partnered with I think 10 or 11 companies initially. One of them being Coursera.
Right. So they have
Zillow.
Canva, they have Booking.com, Expedia, Figma, Spotify, Khan Academy. It's coming up. Instacart, Uber, TripAdvisor.
So they work with them to build these connectors, and they will that in the future. Now they also open up for any developers to build their own. Like this kind of like in preview. By end of the year, they think that this will be like fully released for everybody to build.
They're calling it an app SDK.
Yeah,
That's the
absolutely.
yep.
So the goal is later to have that registry of apps. What's really, really good about it is the distribution, right? You said 800 million people weekly uses this product.
That's right. They announced 800. So they ChatGPT as of this week has 800 million global users weekly. That's weekly, not monthly, weekly.
And they have a mobile and a desktop experience. So for any builder and any company out there, this is a great thing. Like be early on this technology, be early on the App Store. I think this will live. I think this will live. I don't think this will be similar like to plugins and GPTs where it kind of like started with a hype and now feels more fleshed out, right?
Yeah, this is the third iteration now. This is their third try. It might stick the third try. So the first one was the custom plugins. This was very early on, and that never caught on. The second one was the custom GPTs. Not a lot of power there. A lot of people use them, but now essentially they have built a way for all of any application to kind of live within ChatGPT and to be within the context and communicate as part. So you don't need to go anywhere else. You can just live in ChatGPT and have access to all of these and interact with all these different applications right within ChatGPT, including their UI and their context.
And to give some inspiration to people listening who might have not seen, you actually have it on the Dev Day keynote. They show a nice demo, like 5 minutes, but for people who haven't seen it or might not see it.
That was pretty cool.
It was cool. It was cool. So basically, what they were doing is, hey, Canva, can you go create me slides for a specific pitch deck? And in the background, Canva goes and creates a slide. They actually show the slides in a specific UI, specialized. As I was watching, I initially didn't know how they built it, and as like these things are shopping, like, oh damn, they actually how do they handle all these different cases? Because they had a different UI for the slides. You can actually click to the slide, see it full screen. While you're seeing it full screen, you can chat with it, and you can actually ask, hey, can you go no based on this slide, go in and create me a pitch. Then they went to like Zillow. Hey Zillow, I want to move to Pittsburgh. Hey, can you find me apartments? Then it showed a full interactive map inside of ChatGPT, and you can chat and be like, hey, but I want just apartments that are 3 bedrooms and more. Then it filters down in real time the list. That was another type of UI. So it was really impressive to see how diverse it was. And later we found out that we were looking at the agents kit, and we will talk about that how they built it. But that really struck me, and that's the major difference compared to plugins and GPTs. They didn't have that. Aside from also that before plugins and GPTs, especially the GPTs, did not even go outside of the system. Right, you're just building a specific system prompt and giving files that were still living in OpenAI.
Right.
While now this is different. Now people can build any app anywhere and just expose it to the AI and expose the UI to the UI components, which makes more sense if you actually think about it. That's what Claude tried to do at Anthropic, right? When they announced MCP was like, hey, this is how you connect to Claude, but they never went in to productize it. And I think OpenAI just went ahead and took a big opportunity. Like, hey, what if we also do opinionated UI? Because that makes the whole difference.
Yeah. So essentially, where this is going and the conversations that are happening around this is that ChatGPT as basically an interface operating system. So it moves beyond the plugins and the bots to really this immersive, persistent assistant layer. And it accompanies user tasks across these different domains, right? Potentially really consolidating a lot of fragmented app journeys that we're experiencing today into kind of this single interface. We already are copying and pasting things from ChatGPT into all these different apps in order to create something, or in order to do some research, or in order to carry these workflows from one to the other. So now ChatGPT will kind of bring all those things together for you. And of course, this has very, Sam, as part of some of the interviews that Sam Altman did afterwards, folks were asking him, well, does this mean that now you're going to introduce ads as part of it? And he was pretty straightforward and said, well, ads it might make sense to introduce ads in some cases. We just don't know what that's going to look like yet. And another thing that is coming up is the payments as part of these. So now you're going to be able to buy stuff right within ChatGPT, which they announced even before Dev Day. But you can see how these apps and the payment systems that was introduced can be very beneficial. So if you're a school, or if you're a content creator, or if you're an e-commerce shop, or if you're a hub, you have content on your website, the users are going to be much more sticky to ChatGPT rather than going to those different properties. So yes, the data is going to come from there, but the experience is going to be within ChatGPT, which is really interesting. And one of the things that we chatted as well, and we talked about, was this notion of the flywheel, right, and the distribution leverage that they have. So for app makers, ChatGPT App Store, it's like it essentially kind of accelerates. Your app can be available to 800 million users, so right away, so they can explore that. So it makes a lot of sense to be in there. But then that creates a flywheel. So the more users work inside ChatGPT, the more context gets centralized in ChatGPT, and that strengthens the personalization and kind of the assistant quality, while essentially locking you in. So the switching cost becomes very hard. So ChatGPT then becomes your memory, and it becomes your assistant, and you go there for everything.
And you can see how their vision is converging. I mean, I bet it wasn't. I think they are seeing the opportunity. That's why they're going with it.
Right.
I don't think it was their initial vision, but now seeing the capabilities, and one of the reasons why they also brought Johnny Ive from Apple, right? Or not from Apple. He actually already had his own agency afterwards. But you can see how it's converging, right? They just released I think 2 weeks ago the agentic commerce, right?
Correct.
Framework for payments.
Yep.
So now there's an app store that helps people to actually think of, hey, if I'm building an app, maybe I just need to build it for ChatGPT because I already have the distribution and I'll have payments, and if that's what people use and are comfortable with, right? But I will need to have payments. Then they're building a device that we still don't know what that will be, but we know that that device will be something totally different compared to the current compute. Probably it won't be a screen. It will be like a multimodal type of device that can listen, see, and kind of interact with the environment for you. So they did what they are releasing, right? That's just one of the releases was the smaller GPT real time model, which we will touch base later on, which does it can talk and kind of like be a speech to speech type of model. All the improvements to like the image and then like video as well. So then you have the device that you can have a model that understands you on natural language, and the whole backbone of it is a whole app store type of environment where you can have any apps connected to do your work. So you can imagine walking down the street, talking to your device and doing your job, right? Hey, can you go prep me this slide? Can you do this? Can you do that? Right? But you see some of the components will be visual now, artists. I think the device probably will have some way to, but that's really interesting now to see how it kind of converges. Like they're working in parallel on all these different fronts, and you can see them assembling that grand vision. So really interesting.
Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense. So let's move on to Agent Kit, right? So this is kind of where the developers, or essentially there was some leaks beforehand, but Agent Kit, it's essentially the agent builder stack, right? How do you build agents? OpenAI had their agent, kind of their agent SDK before. If you were a developer, you probably had access to that, but now what they shipped was a visual agent builder that kind of orchestrates multi-agent workflows. They introduced what they call Chat Kit, so for embedding chats. So think about like the ability for now you can embed kind of chat interfaces into your own applications, into your website, and that's kind of Chat Kit with custom components and so on and so forth. Essentially, the canvas for these agents to interact with. And then the last thing that they introduced, which was very exciting, at least for me, because we've been kind of trying. We've been using this evals is native evals and they expanded it, a whole evaluation system in their platform. So this was perhaps one of the most exciting things, where you can really trace the kind of, you can do decision grading, prompt optimization, which we can talk a little bit about as well. And then the last thing was kind of connectors to external systems via MCP. So you can kind of start building those. So all of those three pieces were kind of super important as part of the agent builder stack.
I think this idea for them came actually maybe by productizing some of their internal workflows as well, like how they were trying to use their AI internally to implement into their own organization. They saw that, hey, now more and more departments that are not engineering savvy would also benefit from being able to build agents. What's interesting is you already have similar types of products out there, like Zapier and N8N as well.
Make.com, that's right. Linded.com, yep.
Yep. So they all are in the same space of like, hey, you can automate, because agent can be just a node in your workflow that's like a call. You just call agent, and it does something and gives you the output, right? And you can then pass it to the other nodes in the workflow. So the workflow builder or the agent builder is exactly like that. The things that kind of like are relevant here is that when you build the workflow, it gives you that embeddable chat widget you can easily put on your website. I think that's the difference, like compared to these other products. While the other products are mostly like ambient or behind the scenes, here you actually have a full chat widget that's similar to ChatGPT experience, that works with their new protocol for UI that we now talked for apps SDK. It uses that same protocol where these agents can actually return UI widgets. So basically, you're getting a full interactive, rich experience very quickly. They actually demoed on stage. They wanted to make it fun. They were like, hey, can we build a full agent that we'll put on the OpenAI website for the OpenAI Dev Day conference, where you can ask it about the sessions? Can we do it in 8 minutes? And they actually did it in 8 minutes. So it's really interesting. It kind of has some of the kind of like best practice building blocks in a workflow builder for this type of system. Like you have ability to have guardrails like, hey, if the content has PII data, stop. Hey, if it's harmful, if somebody's like saying bad things, stop. So they have this pre-built, or you can build your own. As part of these, like when connecting to other systems, they actually allow first file search inside of OpenAI. OpenAI as a platform allow you to upload files. That's what you were doing when you were doing the custom GPTs. So basically, if you had that data in there, it can already search through documents, that being PDF, Word, whatever. Even like you can download your websites and put it in there. But it also allows you to connect to real-time systems. You can connect to call into your systems and like your database. Or do their even native web search that's already available. So you'll have an agent that does a web search. So it gives you a lot of opportunity to automate some of your work. There was another nice session. You can watch that everything is uploaded, I think, 2 days ago on YouTube. So one of the sessions that really was interesting is how OpenAI uses AI in their own workflows internally. That's a really good use case for anybody wanting to have kind of inspiration how they can use this to build for their own company. I think they demo 3 use cases, which kind of like is usual for kind of like a B2B type of B2B company. One of the agents was like a go-to-market agent that will go and research your customers before you have a meeting, prep everything, prep a demo, prep stuff, and kind of like also close the loop as well. So after the meeting, like, hey, analyze, try to find answers to the questions, and provide you that. So that's one of the good examples. One was the support agent, which is everybody has that, right? Hey, you're getting a lot of inbound, that being students calling you, asking you questions, or you are a product company and was asking you. So they showed how they automate their own support. So they're actually not using an external company. They're actually using they build it themselves.
So this is a session that you went to. So this was not part of the keynote that was announced. So you went to a session on how OpenAI uses OpenAI and agents to kind of work internally on their tools. Yeah, interesting.
And there's a point of that session, right? Initially, when you saw the session, you're like, okay, they maybe just want to talk so to inspire people. But basically, under the hood, the whole point was to promote the agent builder. So the whole point was like, hey, you see now how different departments now need to use agents, and like, hey, you can just use agent builder to make this yourself. Because initially OpenAI has a lot of developers, really good developers, so they could build it for them without using these UI interfaces. It can be just raw code, right? But then they saw, hey, how can we make this templatized so everybody else can benefit, because there's big benefits here. And to hook into what sets it apart is the built-in evals that you mentioned. those built-in evals allow these systems to improve themselves over time. And they actually showed an example, their graph of like support tickets that they were getting. And then when they released the image gen, that like skyrocketed. And imagine how many customers, I think they got like in a day 10 million new users. And imagine how many questions are coming in and things that are really repetitive.
Yeah.
And so what they built is whenever an agent answers something and that's being like, hey, that's good, thumbs up, that basically goes into their evals, and that's kind of like marked as a good result. And the same with the bad results. And under the hood, they built that the system can run prompt optimizations depending on the bad evals coming in, and we can talk about how that works.
Yeah. So for everybody that doesn't understand, like so evals are with large language models and agents, everything is non-deterministic, meaning that every time you're going to get a different answer. So it's very hard to do a test when you're getting a different answer and a different test. So essentially, you have to have a grader on that answer, and you need to say, okay, this is a good answer, this is a bad answer, this is a good answer, and then the aggregation. And when you see the responses or those answers, you have your test data, and then you run those models over it to identify and say, okay, now we're getting 95% of the answers are correct versus with another prompt or another agent we're getting 92% versus 80. So you're essentially trying to improve the correct answers, and evals are a way for you to do that. But every eval has what they call graders, and in a lot of cases, early days, evals were done by humans. So you have a set of tests, and then you go ahead and you say, this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad. The model gets trained based on that, and then any future responses or any future outcome looks at those patterns and says, oh, okay, based on that pattern, I know that this is a good answer or this is a bad answer. So that's an LLM grading the responses, right? So that's an LLM grader. So essentially, they have built a whole system to have custom graders and to not just feed the data and capture and trace it, but also essentially grading all of these questions and then looping back and saying, okay, how can I improve now the prompt that came in to this LLM in order to get a better answer? Because prompting is super important for these models, right? And that is one of the kind of things that I was really excited about, because like our prompting can be really unoptimized. Yes, the best prompter in the world is still misses so many different things, right?
It's a different approach, right? It's a
different approach, right? Right.
And it makes so much sense. Like initially, remember, it was like, hey, prompting. Everybody will need to know how to prompt really, really well, especially for production systems. But isn't it better if you're designing a system, you design the system how it should behave, the inputs and outputs, but the prompt is just generated based on your data set. So there's already there is already kind of like a movement. It's called DSPy. It's in the Python community where there's one researcher and then after a group of researchers as well. They found a way that, hey, let's treat prompts same as how you're training a large language model. You already have your examples of how it should behave. You have your training set and you have your eval set. What if I just then take in the prompt and like generate the first version of it using the examples that I have, and then I can test it across all the other examples that are happening. And for all the things that didn't work, I can try to change it. So who's changing it? Not you. The large language model is changing it. So basically, it's an LLM trying to optimize an LLM prompt. So it's really interesting. It's really meta, and also like large language models are also evaluating your outputs. But if you think that's not what we humans would do, and in the end, it finds all these differently because different large language models have different kind of how they were built initially, how they were tokenized, etc. So it all depends. Different prompts really do work differently across large language models. You don't really want to know the difference. It's the same right now. I'm writing code. Do I really want to know how it compiles to different computers? I really don't need to know. I want it to be abstracted. So they're trying to abstract that's being abstracted. And what really struck to me for the OpenAI Evals is they added that prompt optimization. I initially thought it's just a simple like, hey, it's a large language model going in, calling, and just rewriting the prompt, because initially they didn't have luck with their like GPT-5 optimizer and these others. I think they announced a couple of these optimizer. You can just paste in your prompt and it rewrites your prompt. Well, this is different. This actually uses all your data, all your data set with all the feedback, and then uses that. I think they use that. It's called the GEPA, is the algorithm, where it actually goes in and uses the
GEPA.
GEPA. Yep, it's
So it's an optimization algorithm.
yeah, genetic Pareto. Yeah. So that's from the DSPy library. Shout out to them. They're doing an amazing job. I really like the how they are approaching this.
We're getting a little geeky right now, but this is kind of excites us because this is really interesting.
Not a lot of people are using it. Yeah, not a lot of people are doing it. So this is a big shout out to them that OpenAI has saw that and kind of like implemented similar in there. I think on Twitter, some of the employees have actually confirmed that they are using GAPA under the hood to optimize the prompt. Why GAPA is important? It's how Ardis explained it. Hey, when you're running your evals on like you have a test run and you have, hey, here are my inputs. Here's what the LLM said. You give it like the score. But what you can also do with Yappa, give it a text feedback because it uses a large language model, and then you can use that text feedback to even more quickly adapt the prompt and understand what went wrong. And so that's really interesting. So if you think about it, if you collect now in OpenAI, if you collect all your runs, and you can easily, because everything just hooks. Like if you're using OpenAI also to develop, all your traces will be there. You will see all the runs every time you call a large language model. So you can easily just create those into data sets from your basically production traffic. And then you can run evaluations for your prompt to get it to a better state to better support that. So it's a really a data driven approach to how you manage your prompt instead of like vibing it and like, hey, this is my gut feeling, this will work on. Or for example, you change the prompt, it works in one case, but you broke the another case, right? This basically covers you across the whole variety.
Yeah. And one of the things that is important for us as product builders and here at Element is we started to use some of the tracing and evals of OpenAI a little bit earlier. So this was really exciting that now the prompt optimization is baked in, and we're going to have an opportunity to kind of increase and use it out of the box, which is amazing. So. The other part is they're not locking you in the system. They're not locking you into the OpenAI models, so you can use any model that you want, and you can send those traces to the system as well. So they're making it a lot open, and I can totally see how a lot of people can kind of move to this one. We use Langsmith as another tracing tool. So we'll have to figure out like if this is going to be something that's in addition to Langsmith or
it's so we don't need to change a lot. It's most, if you think about it, we would use, for example, their agent kit now to build a lot of like internal software that we want our people inside the company to use.
Yeah.
So optimizing those processes, we could easily use OpenAI and or even like front facing if it's not part of the product directly and you don't need to brand it fully, and even though they support branding, but we'll play around. But it's another tool at your tool belt that you can use to solve a problem. So but I tell whoever's building and you don't know about this, please, it's my warm advice to go in and learn more about this topic. I think this is where the industry is headed.
Yeah. Okay. So let's kind of continue. So we talked about agent kit, and if you're an operations person or you want to kind of create some workflows, the agent kit is probably really, really important for you because it's a visual builder. A lot of things are there. There's prompts. You can create agents very, very quickly, and you can deploy them and make them useful. You do not need to be a coder, right? They certainly expose the code if you want to bake it into other applications, but you do not have to be a coder, right? This is something that you can use and deploy on the platform right away without any code. So if you're using make.com or any of the other workflow builders, this is very, very similar, and you can go ahead and do that today. Now, a couple of things that they announced, models as well. One of the things that they announced now, GPT-5 Pro is going to be part of the API as well. So we did not have access to that in the API. That was part of ChatGPT, or the $200 version, I think. And then they also introduced it to some of the enterprise versions. But This one, I don't use it very often. I use it only when I want to do analysis on some stuff and it usually takes about 20, I would say a minimum 15 minutes for me on every single task that I give it. So you can imagine how deep it goes and how powerful it is. 15 minutes minimum to work on a task. So they introduced it as part of the API. So now you're going to see, this type of capability in there. It is 12 times more expensive than the standard ChatGPT, though. So that is very, very expensive. So, but for complex reasoning and kind of safety critical workflows, it might make a lot of sense. The other model that they introduced as part of the API was Sora 2. They introduced two. They introduced Sora 2 and Sora 2 Pro, which are not part of the API. So if you have gotten a Sora invite to the app, you probably have seen all of the videos on the Sora app and kind of the capabilities of Sora over the past couple of weeks. That's kind of blown up the internet, which is pretty exciting, but the video capabilities are amazing. And now you can do high-end video generation. So and there's the API access. You can, do a lot of different things. You're going to see a lot of the other apps have the Sora APIs accessible. So like Higgsfield and so on and so forth, some of the creative apps that you're using are probably going to use some of the Sora models to kind of bring that in. So really, really interesting.
They had an interesting session, right? The one where they shown how they worked with a studio from UK for kind of like there was the creators cartoon and like how they ideate and how they like create a story. They said like it takes them like a full year to basically sketch out all the scenes, but basically sketch them out. And they were working with with the OpenAI team. How can that be faster? How can they like try an idea and see like all different variants of it? Which if you think generation helps, right? If you can generate 5 different versions of it, you can immediately see. And the whole point I think was to kind of like inspire people how they can maybe build products using their image APIs and video APIs, which tells me it's underutilized. Like they wouldn't be doing this if it was if people knew. Like probably they were getting a lot of inbound. Hey, Sora API, great, but how or maybe
They didn't have the Sora 2 API. They didn't have it. So yeah.
But at least the image API, hey, well, how can they use it in a product? Like you need a little bit of creativity. So a good example was an artist might upload like a character and might upload like a description of a scene, and then they would use the image API to generate the sketch, like at least like black and white drawing, and then another generation will be like a high fidelity type of image, like you see all the details. And they actually released one of the models was during the announcements was an image mini, which gives you like those like fast generations when you do like sketch generations and not too detailed. And then in the end, they were like, okay, now when the artist selects the scene that they like, then it's able to use Sora 2 to actually extend the scene and like create a little video. So basically, allows you to compose like whole scenes of a movie.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Going from a sketch to a low fidelity image to a high fidelity image with the lighting and the rendering to a video in a matter of just a couple of minutes. You can just pick which one you want. You can pick the props and so on and so forth. So it's really amazing. It was a really amazing workflow that can kind of accelerate creative work. As part of the image announcements, you mentioned that they're introducing GPT Image 1 Mini. And that's about 80% cheaper versus the larger variant. So it can unlock some really, cost sensitive, high frequency tasks that folks might need to do.
Like visual experience at scale, they're using in learning specifically. That's a really really good use case.
Yeah, personalized now. If you have hundreds of thousands of users and you want to personalize images for each one of them, it could have been a little cost prohibitive before. Now you can do that at scale, which is pretty cool.
Really nice. Something that we can use.
Yeah, exactly. We get some ideas.
Yeah. Similar to that vein, why Sora 2 has two models, and how they explained it is you use the smaller model, so not the no pro version initially. You want to nail your prompt right. You want that your prompt gives you everything that you need. It's not perfect, but like it gets you all the things you need in the scene. And then you use the pro one to get that high fidelity, like full detailed video. So that's kind of the workflow they recommended. So because the other one takes longer to generate and it's more expensive. So hey, while you're ideating and like experimenting, use the lower one, and then when you're set with your prompt, then when you change to the pro version. So it seems that the pro version and the smaller model, they basically take the prompt as is, so they there shouldn't be differences in prompting, which is good. So it allows you to build upon. So that's just an interesting workflow.
Yeah. They also released a Sora 2 prompting guide, which I haven't had a chance to go into details, but hopefully I'll grab it and we'll probably have a session. I don't know. I have a session during our AI Engage Summit next week, so this episode will probably drop before then. But I'll see if I can pull a lot of those guides and we can kind of play around with it for sure. And then the other thing that they announced was real time or GPT real time mini voice. So this is an interesting one, which is 70% cheaper, improved voice quality for many use cases. So same voice quality, same reasoning, 70% cheaper. And this is voice API. What do you think about that?
I'm not a fan because we've been using their real-time voice since the start, and we actually needed to pivot to a different solution to be able to kind of like support production use cases. And I don't know, when I saw that it's smaller, and they didn't mention, hey, it's smarter, it works better. They were just, hey, it's cheaper. Generally, that doesn't mean it's better. And their current quality, like, people are now getting used to that the voice AI needs to behave almost as human. It's kind of like the quality they expect. And I saw that when you need to be on that level, if you're not at that level, people will actually complain. So releasing a smaller model that probably will have issues, because the current model, the bigger one, also has issues. I don't see that as a use case, at least in our industry. Maybe there's an industry where
But
hey,
to be fair, we haven't tested this one yet. So distillation of models is actually works better, faster sometimes. We might benefit from that. But what I'm really excited here is that they see voice as a natural interface that is going to be needed for a lot of applications going forward. So they're actually paying attention, and they're putting resources and building in that space. So, even though this is as the worst it's ever going to be, right? I'm kind of encouraged that they're actually building and continuing to bring the price down. Plus, they're innovating and kind of releasing, better models.
Yeah, I think what happened is, I think they're down their way, so you can get a mold if you can put on device. I think that's what they're trying to do, but they need to get the expertise. So probably there was a team that was experimenting. Hey, can you reduce the size, but still retain the quality? It probably retains like 80% of the quality, while it's significantly smaller,
Faster and smaller.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they saw, hey, because it will be so cheaper, some people will have a use case that really cannot pay for the bigger, and they're okay with that being not the top quality. So I think they just saw the benefit. They can earn some extra money on the side. They can still get a promotion, but the goal I think is different. The goal is like, hey, they're working towards learning how do you get that knowledge of like, hey, how do you get these real time voice model, because not a lot of companies use real time or have real time voice models in their offering. Is how do you optimize them to get them to a really small version that in the end you can put them on a device, because that's the ultimate unlock, right? If you can put it on people's devices, that doesn't cost you anything, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, I mean, lots of announcements for sure, but the reactions were mostly around Agent Kit, and everybody was excited about Agent Kit.
It's twofold, artists. It's actually, there were people who were also. What I was surprised is all the companies competing in the space. Remember, it was everybody was like, game on, game on, game on. But there's also a whole group of people that's a little bit disappointed, because there's a whole now discussion in the space of like what an agent is, and there's no one true answer. It's an AI that does something, right? So a lot of people were disappointed because they workflow builders, right, are kind of like the old software paradigm, right? And that's where people are complaining, is like, hey, this is just the old software paradigm. It's nothing new. It's kind of like what already exists, and it's nothing revolutionary. But there's so much hype around it that then people are like, why, right? Some other companies approach this differently. Like I think Claude, specifically with their Claude code, that agentic behavior needs to be different. Like you treat the LLM as a human. You give it like, hey, to your best knowledge, you try to do this job, and here are all the tools at your disposal. And I don't build the streamlined flow. I can only trust you and your smartness based on my instructions to do it, which is a whole different flow. So interesting. It's really interesting. We'll see where it pans out. But there's like definitely like two camps of people here. That people really like it, people that really don't like it because it represents something that we already had. It's not too different, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's really really interesting. So kind of things that we're going to see, kind of this notion of conversational OS is the really the end game, right? Like if you think about from a UX and product design, like the more compelling demos collapses this multi-step app journeys into this persistent context-aware assistance. So we're going to see more and more of that happening. You think about the builder UX user experience still has gaps, right? We're obviously they built the agent builders, these visual canvases. They feel really familiar with no code, but they really can be daunting to a lot of non-technical users, right? So we are seeing how we're actually building agents that can build a lot of these workflows and agents. So I feel that that's a better way to kind of describe what you want, and then the agents actually building agents themselves. So the visual canvas and connecting things can be a little bit daunting for people. I'm not really sure we're there yet. And then when you think about the context gravity versus kind of this privacy, posture, it's like, the more work that happens inside of ChatGPT, organizations will kind of weigh and think about like, well, the productivity gains against the data residency. It's like, where's the data going to be? Like, am I going to think about like ChatGPT as kind of a data grab for everything versus like where the vendor lock-in and the privacy? Obviously, MCP connector policies and kind of on-prem or hybrid options will, come up and, as you start thinking about the enterprise. But, for sure, over the next 3 to 6 months, the way I see it is kind of this rate of high quality apps and consumer retention using ChatGPT will be as a daily hub will become very apparent. I don't know where the agent agent kit ecosystem, like the third party templates, like you're going to see a lot of vertical blueprints. The integrations are going to go in much bigger depth. You're going to see kind of this conversational builders emerge on top of them. Like I said, you're not agent builder is and kind of those canvas is not the right approach. And the enterprise use cases, you're going to see a lot of logos coming into ChatGPT, right? So that's going to be something that we're going to see in here. I don't know, what do you think that means for like startups, right? So if you build agents, like what does that mean?
My advice for startups that kind of like understand the tech, I would still build it in code. I don't think the agent kit is intended for this use case because even the app SDK, you still can build your own app and then expose it just via MCP. So you need to have that mode. You need to have your app because you don't want to rely on OpenAI. What if OpenAI changes their policy and their monetary policy changes that it's basically not you don't control it. It's another company, and it turns out that the app cannot be sustainable if there's a change. So just build it yourself first, and that also gets you the expertise. AgentKit is a really good for proof of concept. If you want to like get value quickly, if you want to get that quick distribution as well. But take into consideration this is so early that no normal people are actually using it, or there won't be a lot of customers. It will take at least a year for this to like catch fire in the sense that hey, there's people know to go into the app store to find an app for ChatGPT. I don't think people have that muscle yet. But I think it's important to practice, and I think separately, as you're using the agent kit, that I think that will be really similar how you do also the apps SDK. I need to read the full docs. I haven't. So full disclaimer, they actually announced recently like the full docs for how do you build the apps SDK. I kind of have a theory that it's quite similar to the agent kit, so I'll just research that. But I think like as you're in this ecosystem and you learn how OpenAI does things and how you incorporate your agents into the true agent kit into workflows and then also the apps SDK, I think it will be like a common line that then you build your expertise once that you can use. So they will be creating like a full platform, like people who were developing on Apple, right? Hey, you know Xcode, this, so you're familiar with the tooling and it's not scary. So it's a good tool to have. I think it will be really useful for every internal, especially if you use OpenAI models and you're already on their platform, and kind of like you already procured that, then makes so much sense. You don't need to buy a whole other tool to build like a workflow internally if you want to expose, I want to build a chatbot for my company to find, policy, and hey, what's the travel policy? What's this? What's that?
Yeah. So building internal tools and building some of those tools.
Yeah, but I think there's still a really, really crazy opportunity for people to actually build an app that actually goes on the ChatGPT, and that's how you earn all your money, and it's kind of like it's full. I think
Hey,
it's
is that maybe we can experiment on that? See if we can come up with a few ideas.
Yep. I think that's interesting because it's a whole new, right. You will be first, right? You will be first to a degree. So it's just that it's still clearly totally unknown. How do they find you? How do you optimize? How do you market for that?
Right,
Is it
right.
still traditional marketing, and then you can like tell them, hey, this is how you install it, right? But so that's the only thing. I still don't see how normal people will get to it. But
It's a brave new world, and the idea of the everything app is coming with Google. I'm sure Google. I just saw something they announced Gemini Enterprise. This is about OpenAI and Dev Day, but just some other news as we're recording this. They announced Gemini Enterprise, which also does something very similar with the agent builder. It's within their Google AI Studio that does something very similar where you build agents and you deploy them. So you're going to see this from a lot of different players, and it's going to be a matter of time before you see it in your own ecosystem. So the agent builder is going to, I don't know, maybe Q4 is going to be all about agent builders. It's like the proliferation of agent builders. So it's pretty exciting, pretty exciting. We're building our own agents that build agents, by the way. So no UI, well, some UI, but we feel that the conversational interface is a lot better to just tell it what to do and it will build it.
I want to just add like a minute just on that when we talk about our agents, and because we approach the problem totally differently, right? For people who
Mm-hmm.
might know Element, we did have a workflow engine where you go in and define your steps. This is even before AI era. For you define
Yeah,
like
we did
actually,
have a canvas. That's right. That's
yeah, we
right.
did have like, and you'd be like, hey, if this, then do this, else do that, and it was really useful because you can do like whole marketing campaigns and drip campaigns and all that. So when we were thinking of like, hey, how do we use this technology and its capabilities? Because there's a famous moment in time when me and artists were together and we're like, hey, all the AI is reactive. What if we make it proactive? And that's how we started entering into that project. It was like, and
That
we
was
had
2 years
nothing
ago.
defined. That was nothing. It was nothing defined. It was just, hey, how do we just make it proactive? And artists had a great simplification because I was overthinking it. I couldn't really grasp like because you said, hey,
You thought it was going to be so expensive. You're
yeah.
like, we cannot afford this. We cannot afford it.
So what's that? So first I couldn't really grasp how the users will use it. How do they like to use it? And I just had a great idea. It was, what if it's a workflow with no steps? Basically, steps are defined in the moment in time as the AI is progressing, and that unlocked it for me how to design it. It's kind of like, hey, imagine if AI is just constantly evaluating what's going on and taking all the inputs of, for example, for a specific user, specific student, or whatever, and then it has a list of actions that you can run and has a specific goal that you assigned it. So that's how we build and we call it jobs. And I said, hey, these are agent jobs. You give a job to an agent needs to do that job for that specific user. And I really like that paradigm because it really leans onto the flexibility that agents give you, because instead of specific set of rules and specific set of, you kind of give it instructions that it needs to follow, but it can still kind of like use its common sense, right? In certain specific situations, you'd be like, okay, in this case, it doesn't make sense, even though you give me instructions, but like taking everything into account, I can make a different decision. And I think that's interesting, and it's a totally different approach compared to the workflow builders, right? So that's what we're doing. So now we're building a agent that will actually be able to build these jobs for you, so that you don't even need to specify the jobs.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The playbooks and all that. So you don't need to kind of wire things together and know how to configure things and so on and so forth. So much easier that way. The easy button. We just want the easy button. All right. Well, Petar, this has been great. I know we're coming up to an hour for the episode. There's a lot that we kind of discussed here. Hopefully, we gave everybody a little bit of an insight. For us being there in person, kind of what we saw, what we felt was really important, the different sessions that we kind of looked at and how people are thinking about this. Again, this is kind of the OpenAI ecosystem. There's tools that are going to be used for a lot more outside of that, but they are one of the most advanced AI labs out there and products that they're putting out in the ecosystem. So with 4 million developers on their platform, building stuff, and also 800 million users on ChatGPT, they are the ecosystem to kind of pay attention to. So we thought, and of course, ChatGPT being kind of the dominant, chat assistant that everybody uses, we thought that this is super important. So, Petar, thanks for joining me today. Until next time, everybody.
Generation AI is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you're going to like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing weekly, and we've got a wide range of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed leaders and professionals like you find their next big idea. They feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts, like Jamie Hunt, Seth Odell, Jenny Lee Fowler, Brian Gross, and many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform that's helping institutions all over the country create meaningful, personalized, and engaging connections with their prospects and students. Learn more at element451.com.